Welcome to On the Corner of Main Street, presented by Plaza Hotel and Casino in downtown Las Vegas. Here is Plaza CEO Jonathan Jossel, Gary Vickery, and I'm your host, Lisa Melmed. Hello and welcome back to another episode of On the Corner of Main Street. It's good to be here in Oscar's Steakhouse. How are you, Jonathan?
Doing great, Lisa. Good to be back.
So I noticed that you have picked up a new sport during the pandemic.
What has that got to do with this, Lisa? Yes, I have. I have indeed. I heard that golf during the pandemic has become like the second coming of golf after Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods was like the first renaissance for golf. The pandemic is number two because it's obviously a safe way to be outdoors, keep you active, and it takes like 5 hours to do it, so you get out of your house for a long time. So yeah, I started playing golf, but not as much anymore since we've reopened, and it's a great game. Thank you for asking.
Is that your favorite sport?
No, my favorite sport would be football the UK way, which makes sense because you play it with your feet with the ball, and of course...
Yeah. I wonder how that got lost in translation.
To American football?
Yeah.
Maybe our guest today can help educate us on that.
Well, let's just get right into our fabulous guest. So Las Vegas Lights FC is an American professional soccer team based here in Las Vegas, and it plays in the USL Championship, and the team made its debut in 2018 and plays downtown at Cashman Field. And today we are joined by owner and CEO of the Las Vegas Lights Football Club, Brett Lashbrook.
Viva Lights. Great to be in my favorite steakhouse in my favorite downtown of my favorite city.
Hey, welcome.
Well, you called it a professional team. That was very generous of you.
Oh, that's...
Sorry, Brett.
Let's start right there. Let's go into it.
Oh, man.
Sorry,
professional.
Brett. Sorry, Brett. Nice to see you, Brett.
We can
Thank
beat your
you.
Arsenal any day of the week.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Thank you for coming on our podcast.
Excited to be
with us.
here, guys.
Yay. So how did you end up in Las Vegas, and how did you end up with the Lights?
So originally from Kansas City, born and raised in the Kansas, Missouri area, as Midwest gets in many ways. But my mother moved out to Summerlin about 20 years ago when she retired. And so I always say, I wasn't a local when I moved here in 2015, but I'd spent the last 20 Christmases here, right? So I'd gotten to know the city and been around it, et cetera, et cetera. And during that time, I had worked a variety of roles, all within American soccer. At the team level, at the organizing committee level, when the '99 Women's World Cup, the 2003 Women's World Cup. I worked 7 years at Major League Soccer's headquarters in New York as their legal counsel, and then special assistant to the commissioner's office. And that's where I really started to see the growth of the sport and going into these communities, and how do you take all this excitement for the world's most popular game into these individual markets across the country. And I saw what my hometown of Kansas City did, where they've got 20,000 plus fans a game, et cetera, et cetera. And I saw what was happening in the Portlands and the New Yorks and Torontos, et cetera, et cetera.
Brett, give an idea, like how big, let's use the last 10 years, how big has MLS, Major League Soccer, gotten in America? Because I don't think people realize how popular it is.
I always use this stat. Major League Soccer averages more fans per game than the NBA and the NHL. Now, it's half as many games. It's outdoor versus indoors, but Major League Soccer is averaging over 25,000 fans a game across 26 markets in the U.S. and Canada.
Wow.
So when people say, well, when's soccer going to happen? I always kind of chuckle to myself, and I think soccer's already happened, right? And there's an enormous amount of upside still here in the world's most capitalistic market of the United States and Canada. But soccer, you bring in top-level teams from around the world, and it'll fill NFL stadiums in a heartbeat.
Wow.
The World Cup coming back here in 2026, et cetera, et cetera. So started to see how do you build this domestic.
Sorry, Brett, to interrupt you. This is a very exciting moment. We have a Hanukkah menorah being put up in Oscars as we're speaking. I mean, this is an honor if ever I saw one. There's a menorah literally being placed on the counter in Oscars.
Play-by-play the podcast.
Yes,
there we go.
The menorah is now officially here.
The Christmas tree is up.
Okay, sorry, you were saying.
So I saw the growth of the sport, and how do you do it in an individual city, and it's this, when do you bring a David Beckham over? When do you do, X, Y, and Z? How do you bring in these international soccer events? And so in 2012, I went down to Orlando. and they had a United Soccer League team, which is the league that we're in, right? It's a second division professional league. Think of it, if you're an American sports fan, think of it as akin to AAA baseball. And went down to Orlando in a matter of 3 years. I like to say we went from 3,000 arms and legs a game to 20,000 season tickets and 70,000 for the first game, and had built a stadium, or in the process of building a stadium, right in the downtown core. And you saw this whole demographic come out of the woodwork they were sports fans, and they wanted to be a part of this international sport. And it was no longer this was just a Hispanic sport, right? There was this misnomer that it was only quote unquote Hispanics or Europeans that liked it. You were seeing this whole generation that for the last 20, 30 years, soccer was the #1 youth participation sport, and you were really starting to see the benefits of that. And so left Orlando City in 2015, and I moved out here to be closer to my mom and some health reasons, et cetera, et cetera. And I didn't really know. I didn't really plan on staying here long term. I had family out here and was doing this little pit stop to help with some health issues, and quickly realized, one, I love Las Vegas, right? That what's not to love, and that we were the second largest city in the entire world without a professional soccer team.
In the world.
In the world, only behind Detroit City, Detroit Motor City. Las Vegas, with 2.3 million people, didn't have a professional soccer team. And so I had seen firsthand, having started this helped start it in other cities, and then at the league office, seeing the last 10 expansion teams. It's not hard to find soccer fans. I knew that there were soccer fans in Las Vegas. I didn't have to do any research. I knew that with just common sense. The most difficult thing is a stadium. Stadiums are hard to build, right? Whether it's T-Mobile, whether it's a Allegiant Stadium, whatever it is, stadiums are hard to build. And we had a wonderful 10,000-seat stadium in downtown Las Vegas. The baseball team wanted to move, right? The city owned it. They didn't quite know at that point, the LVCVA owned it, right? So it was a complicated lease terms. And it was the only baseball stadium in the world I'd ever seen that was built as a square. So you could fit a soccer field perfectly into it, right? The sightlines are better for soccer than baseball. And so you start to put all that together, and sat down with my family, and I said, I think there's a real opportunity here. This is our new adopted town. This is what I think I know how to do. This is how I think we can do it, and that's how the Las Vegas Lights were born.
Well, you've definitely proven that you know how to do it, and congratulations to you. But I think Lisa sort of undersold you a little bit in the introduction here. I think that what you've done is unbelievable, and you took a vision, and I think the mayor is maybe your biggest fan, in the sense
great.
that she absolutely says that you're a guy who puts his money where his mouth is. You said you were going to do something. A lot of people had come before you and failed. Yeah. And you went through with it and had a vision, and you executed on it, and are still to this day doing it. So I give you a lot of credit for that.
I appreciate that. As much as I appreciate all that, bringing the world's most popular sport to the world's most entertaining city isn't rocket science also, right? We have to continue to build it. We have to build it. We have to continue to put a better product out there. We have to continue to grow it. But all the pieces are in place for a lot of success for a lot of years.
And you kind of gave it a Las Vegas spin with all the fun attractions and promotions.
Yeah, so I've always been a big believer that professional sports teams should reflect their communities, right? So I always say, the New York Yankees, that NY on that black hat, it means something about the grittiness of the Bronx, right? The old Boston Celtics, right? And that just has an essence. The Green Bay Packers, the Lakers, right? Even when they before LeBron and after Kobe, when they weren't making the playoffs, it was still the Los Angeles Lakers, and they reflected that community. And so here we are in downtown of the world's most entertaining city. We had a platform and ability to take on the personality of our neighborhood, and it was a way for us to separate us from other soccer teams. And at the end of the day, I really do believe that the so many fans want to come on a Saturday night, have a cold beer. Kids have Dippin' Dots. They want a good experience. They want to have fun. They want to be entertained.
Who doesn't want Dippin' Dots?
Who doesn't?
I only learned
under the age of 12.
I only learned what those were at Cashman Field. But Lisa touches on a good point. To you, what's more important, the fan experience and the promotions, or the on-the-field results?
So I always say both are equally important. There are two sides of the business, and they are both absolutely equally important. The only part I can really control, though, right, is the scripted part, right, which is the entertainment part, which is the promotions part. We can talk about, everything that we do to, quote-unquote, become the most interesting team in America. I can only do so much with the unscripted entertainment, right, that we can continue to invest in the players and the coaches and everything else. But that's the beauty of sports. You go in between those white lines for 90 minutes, and you can't control how many goals we're going to score. So I always say I can't guarantee goals and wins, but I can guarantee laughs and smiles.
Well, okay, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But of course, as an owner, you can control the coach, and I mean, you can't control the coach, but you can choose the coach and set him up for success on the field.
Right.
And I'm not saying you're not.
Right.
I'm just saying, from your perspective, is the focus more on the entertainment, which I get, by the way. I mean, it's Saturday night, downtown Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Let's have fun.
So the way I've structured it, why I'm the owner and CEO, I hire what I call the CEO of soccer, right? You don't want me picking the players, you don't want me picking the lineup, you don't want me scouting the opposition. So you can certainly, if someone wants to question, have I hired the right people to oversee that soccer side? But so both sides roll up to me, but obviously I personally put my hands more on I'll call it the game entertainment and in our community presence. So, knowing that but with that said, I know where you're getting at on this. We have to get better on the field, right, and continuing to take steps to invest on that side and to figure out not just investing on that side, but how do we structure it, especially at this level, to maximize it.
I agree with you, and thank you for answering that, because I know it's not always an easy question. But what do you, just switching gears for a second, what do you think about the fact that Vegas has become a sports town overnight, essentially, and what do you think about the current sports teams that are here and what they're doing within the community and how they're building their brands? We obviously have the Raiders now, the Golden Knights now, the AAA team out there.
The Aces, the Aviators.
The Aces, the Aviators.
You still have UNLV, who's UNLV, right? So I always say, when I privately knew that I was going to do this, I knew that the Golden Knights were coming. I never in my wildest dreams had my business plan in that in year one I would have a home game in June that I'd have to worry about a hockey game, right? And then being in the Stanley Cup Finals, right? So I give the Golden Knights all the credit in the world. In hindsight, it's very difficult to launch a professional sports team in the shadows of the most successful expansion professional sports team in history, which was the Golden Knights. Obviously, since we've launched, the Raiders have taken over the market. The Aces, the Aviators built a new stadium. I think there's two ways to look at it. One is I can't stop it, so it is what it is, embrace it. And two, which is really where my head is at, there is so much going on a Saturday night in Las Vegas. This is just another pebble in the ocean, and that no one is not coming to a soccer game next summer because they have football or hockey tickets next November, right? That our competition is what else is going on that Saturday night. And then you just lean in, right? And I mean it sincerely. Vegas supports Vegas, right? So we've partnered with the Golden Knights and done jerseys with them. We were going to do the same thing with the Raiders this year. Support the Aces, the Aviators, UNLV, right? We have quickly, and I think it's great, right? We were the slowest developing 2.3 million population base not to have professional sports. So I'm excited on where this is going as a community.
Pretty good.
Do you know why it's not called football here?
I'm going to leave that to the European on the podcast to.
I really don't know.
I get it. I just find it funny, right? So we call our team Las Vegas Lights FC for football club, right? Which is the international way of saying it. And FC kind of denotes to people that it's soccer, but we play in the United Soccer League, right? It's the same thing. It's called Major League Soccer, but half the teams call themselves FC. So there's clearly an identity issue going on in the sport.
So we. When you moved to town, I met you.
Yeah.
No, sorry, not when you moved to town. When you decided to do this
Yeah.
in town and downtown, we got to know each other, and we decided to sponsor you. We were the logo on the shorts,
Yep.
which I was very proud of. We're on
Yeah.
the shorts was our song, and we did it because we wanted to support something in the community,
Right.
specifically downtown.
Right.
We thought it was important for the plaza to be a part of something that was downtown, that was bringing anywhere from 8,000 to 10,000 people a night on a weekend to downtown. So for us, it was a nice partnership. Do you think you've achieved what you wanted to do in terms of creating awareness for soccer downtown and creating a community for soccer in Las Vegas?
So I'll start and just tell you my favorite story about our partnership, right?
Okay.
So every team, right, what's the uniform we're going to be, what's going to uniform? What uniform really is just code for what's the jersey, right? And what's the jersey unveiling and what are you going to do, et cetera, et cetera. So we became the first team in history to have an official shorts unveiling. and if you remember, it was Jonathan, 5 showgirls, and the mayor downstairs with 5 soccer players.
You wish they were showgirls. They were topless men. men. They were topless men.
And 5 players with only wearing their shorts, taking their bathrobes off. So that again, when you talk about let's have some fun off the field, I think that was a perfect example of mixing the two. As it relates to where are we in the ecosystem of downtown, where are we in the ecosystem of Las Vegas, I say this incredibly humbly. We have a lot more work to do, right? I really think we've just started to scratch the surface, and averaging close to 8,000 fans a game, I think, is a great, amazing first step. There's 35 teams in our league. We averaged, we were 5th highest in attendance 2 years ago when we played with fans. So I know we've got the infrastructure in place to continue to grow this, but hands down, without a doubt, we have to continue to become part of the fabric of the community. And I hear so many people around town. No one is against us, right? Everyone is glad to have professional soccer here. At this point, I don't care what your age is. You're just one degree of separation, whether it's your grandkids that play or you watch it on TV or you know someone or you went to Europe and you saw a game. Everyone has some connection to soccer, and we've just got to convert all those people that are excited to see pro soccer in Las Vegas to actually coming down on a Saturday night. And I say, once I get you there, I'm going to make you come back because you're going to have a good time. But we have a lot more room of growth. And again, it goes back to people have a lot of choices, especially in this community, and we've got to cut through that clutter, and we've got to continue to provide value and make people entertained.
Value is a key word as well. And I think you and I have talked about this for a long time, but I still think, and I think you've told me you're going to try this next year, I hope, not just doing Saturday nights at 8 p.m. or whatever the time is, to get that suburb crowd with their kids that are more comfortable to come to a game, maybe not on a Saturday night in downtown Las Vegas, but somewhere else.
It's hard to please everyone, right? But I think having really 2 full seasons under our belt right before the pandemic, et cetera, realizing this is a very unique town and when people work and times that are available, et cetera. I also understand not everyone is always comfortable coming to Cashman Field at different times of day and different times of night. So I think there's some creative things that we can do just listening to our fan base, like you said, right? Can we try some Friday nights? Can we try some Sunday afternoons? Can we try some different things? Because I really do believe Cashman Field's been around for 40 years. Everyone knows where it is. And I like to say we're going to turn it into the Fenway Park or Wrigley Field of soccer. And I think we're on our way.
That's a great goal. You mentioned it, and I was talking yesterday, you mentioned the pandemic. And I was talking with someone from the Golden Knights yesterday, and they were saying how, I guess, and this is not a secret, but I guess the season's supposed to start January 1 for ice hockey, and nobody knows if there's going to be fans or no fans and what that looks like. Speaking for the Lights, the season starts February, I assume.
Preseason starts in February. The season starts in March. I want to be I say this with a smile on my face. I want to be careful what I say, right? Because the league is actively working on this and working with the Board of Governors to figure out what to do. I think would not be a surprise to anyone that we have to push back the start of the season, why we haven't made that official announcement. And as I say, the NBA just made theirs announcement. Baseball hasn't decided, hockey hasn't decided, and we still have 6 months, right, et cetera, before we quote unquote have to start making decisions.
What do you mean?
I don't think this. Well, if we push back to April or May or June, right?
Sorry,
so I use that term loosely. I don't think it makes sense for us to come back until fans are comfortable to come back, right? We're in such a unique time here, and again, hopefully, by the time this comes out, right, there's a vaccine out there, et cetera, and the magic pill has solved everything.
Well, you think by next week there's a vaccine?
This is the power of delayed release podcasts. But yeah, I think we are in a holding pattern, right? Society will tell us when they're comfortable coming back, and obviously it's been a difficult year in multiple ways, but I also think we've got this down to the machine is still purring along, and whenever the public says they're ready to come back, we can immediately turn this back on and we can start throwing soccer parties.
So you played last season without fans for the remainder of the season. Basically, it was March we shut down.
Shut down in March, and we played from July to October.
With no fans.
And our very last game in October, we were able to have 250 fans in the stadium. So,
but that doesn't
not the
work
greatest
for you.
business model, no.
That's not going to work.
Not a great business model, flying across the country to play games with no fans.
You're right. But if there isn't the ability to do fans, the season doesn't start in your mind.
Again, I'm one vote.
Yeah, of course.
Of 35.
Like I said, in your mind.
It becomes very difficult for me to be able to justify for us to no different than what the Aviators and others have done on the baseball side in minor league baseball. We are a fan-driven league, and very candidly, not to turn this into a capitalistic discussion, right? We make our money on those 17 home games. So if we can't make money on those 17 home games, it becomes very difficult for us to justify, paying 20-plus professional players and flying across the country.
It's difficult league, that's for sure. Difficult time to try to run a team. I mean, this is no business is doing well in this time.
Yeah,
so
and not to talk about the NHL, but you mentioned it, right? I mean, they have real issues with what the player contracts say and what their sponsor contracts say, et cetera, and what their broadcast contracts say. So it's not unique to the sports industry, but this is such a unique time that we're in that we're all kind of looking around at each other trying to figure out how do we get through this.
Do you have any secret surprises or plans for when fans can come back?
When we're ready, we will continue our outlandish promotions and fun and
it'll be
and
difficult
hilarity.
to do the helicopter with the mask on, though. You got the cash run when you got
the cash drop.
Yeah, the $10,000 cash and prizes drop, sponsored by the Plaza Hotel and Casino. We had our whole promotional schedule for this year that we didn't utilize. So in some ways we've got a lot of fun things that we had planned that we weren't able to implement.
What about the calendar? The picture of the calendar with Flavor Flav and Oscar and Carolyn and the llama that we did up here at the pool.
Are you going to give that was the team photo, right?
Did you not release that?
No,
yet?
we released the team photo.
I thought so.
The most outrageous night in Vegas.
Yeah.
I think your staff wasn't very thrilled with us throwing confetti and fake $100 bills into the pool. But other than that, the mayor also didn't like the smoke bombs. She did not. She didn't like that. So we've learned for next year on how to do a team picture with the mayor.
Perfect. Okay. Oh. And what about you personally, Brett? What's been keeping you busy the last 9 months? No games to go to. So what's been on the docket? You got married.
I got married. Yes.
Congrats.
During the pandemic.
No, before the pandemic. So my wife, luckily, is still working every day for better or for worse. And I think early on in the pandemic, I became a Netflix expert. But other than that, honestly, we now start thinking about how do we get ready and how do we continue to build upon it, and reading a lot of books and everything of that sort, right? The not so fun answers of how do we continue to be just laser focused on one of your prior questions. How do we continue to grow this in this community, in this pandemic? Because I think we have a huge upside that we haven't tapped into yet.
Well, talk about the location, right? Everyone's familiar with, not everyone, but locals in Las Vegas are very familiar with Cashman Field, the history there, what's happened there. I mean, the city's been trying to develop that forever. Do you see a development there, potential? I mean, I've talked to some well-known Vegas developers, and they've all felt like it's just that 1 mile to north for development. Yeah. But
so I guess there's a couple different ways to look at this, and I certainly don't want to come off like I'm a mouthpiece of the mayor, but there's something about Cashman Field is easily accessible from anywhere in the city. It is 20 minutes really from 95% of the people in the metro area. So it has a lot. It's right off the freeway, et cetera, right? There's a lot of positive things to it. Like you said, it's on Las Vegas Boulevard. It's connected into that. It's not far away from being fully connected into the main corridor of downtown. As you know, right, there is a large group that is in an exclusive negotiation agreement with City Council, and it has been for about a year now, to develop, close to 80-plus acres, including the whole Cashman Field site, Las Vegas Boulevard up to Fremont Street. Their big vision, right, and I understand it's the big vision is, look what Staples Center did in LA, right? If you had gone to that 20 years ago, what that was, and now look at it, it's got a 5-star hotel, and it has 200 plus events going on a night. If you look at years ago at downtown Baltimore, right, what they did there with the Orioles Stadium, et cetera, they believe that this is the second fastest growing city in the country, that there is a lack of housing in downtown, which we would all agree on, and that there's an opportunity, especially on Las Vegas Boulevard, to really do something at scale. the challenge there is it has to be at scale for it really to have the full effect. So we are not anxious, we're a very curious bystander on how those negotiations are going between the third party and city council. But clearly that could have a real positive impact for us long term.
We were involved a few years ago with a developer, local developer, probably wouldn't mind us saying. I mean, it's public. Justin Findlay.
Yep.
And they were looking at doing an MLS stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Now the difference being MLS, not USL.
Yep.
They weren't going to take that first baby step.
Yep.
On Symphony Park, which is the land to the to the west of the plaza, across the train tracks. They wanted to build a stadium there. I believe around 20,000 seat.
Yeah.
Beautiful stadium, and then bring an MLS team. Do you see that as the eventual goal to get to the MLS, or could you see USL being successful in remaining in Las Vegas?
So it's funny. So it's a loaded question, right? I don't have the finances to go Major League Soccer, right? Those expansion fees are in the 300 million plus range, et cetera, et cetera. What I do know is this: 10 of the last, and I'm a little loose on my facts, 10 of the last 13 Major League Soccer expansion teams have come from USL markets, right? That they started as a USL team and they grew. So what I have said from my very first meeting with the mayor to my very first meeting with you, Jonathan, to my very first interview with the Review Journal is my focus is to make this the absolute best United Soccer League, right? Professional soccer team that we can. If we have success, good things are going to happen. I don't know if that means there's going to be an 80-acre development, massive development that brings in Major League Soccer. I don't know if that means, the Plaza Hotel is going to get involved in Symphony Park and we're going to build a Major League Soccer team there. It's all several years away, but this is a great first step to seed the market for professional soccer.
This is the only first step, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think
for the
it's
MLS to give you a franchise, you would need to prove the market a little bit, perhaps.
I believe it sounds self-serving, but yes, they especially now with all these different teams in town, they want to see success, right? This is how the Kansas Cities, not the Kansas Cities, the Portlands, the Seattles, et cetera, right? They started at the USL level, and now look at what they're doing. But by no means, I want to be clear, right, for those hardcore soccer fans watching, you don't have to have a USL team to go to Major League Soccer. Time and time again, you would work together on how do you grow it. And what we've said is we will never, ever stand in the way of Major League Soccer. We've said it to the mayor infinite number of times over the last several years. If there's a Major League Soccer opportunity in this community, we do not want to stand in its way.
But for Major League Soccer to work here, you would need a stadium, and Cashman would need to be developed into a stadium, or
so I say it with a smile on my face. Hey, Major League Soccer has a lot of steps between here and there, so we're just going to keep making USL as good as possible, and I think it's can lead to great things with MLS down the road. But I don't think there's an immediate MLS step available.
Speaking out of turn totally here, aren't there stadiums across the country where NFL teams and MLS teams share a stadium?
Absolutely,
like the New England Patriots, although they share an owner, which helps.
You hit it on the head there, yeah. It becomes.
Are there others besides?
Seattle shared an owner. New England, Seattle.
But they all share owners.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a little different.
Yeah.
We need Mark Davis to buy the MLS franchise.
There you go.
And put it in the Raiders
I think Mark
stadium.
has his hands full right now, but yes.
Okay, but if there is somebody listening to this podcast that wants to bring MLS to Las Vegas, MLS, we have a great USL team and we have a site. We just need somebody to take us to.
Yeah, and just so your
Holy
listeners,
Grail.
right, just to bring it into context, right? So Major League Baseball doesn't have to get the Aviators' permission per se, right? But the Aviators, being the #1 minor league baseball team in the market, makes us a more and more attractive Major League Baseball market. It's the exact same analogy.
Okay. Tell us about your thoughts on downtown. I mean, you're a Summerlin guy.
Yep.
You kind of live near downtown.
Yep.
What do you think about what's happened down here over the last few years?
I think it's a hidden secret, and I think part of the challenge and also the opportunity is we could I understand in the core of downtown, right? It's a tourism driven, and obviously I'm not an expert on that in any way, shape, or form. I think though there is a continued opportunity here for the local market to come down to Fremont Street more than what we're currently getting. And I know we get Fremont East on a Friday night, et cetera, et cetera. I think we've got to do, I don't want to say we have to do a better job. That comes off more negative. I think there's still a lot of opportunity for us to go get the suburban family of 4 to become more and more comfortable coming down to downtown and seeing all that it offers. And I think the lights are part of that. I think Oscars is part of that. I think, looking across the street, what's happening on down there is all part of that. And again, I go back to the answer on what did the lights do and how, where are we in the ecosystem, et cetera, et cetera. We have a huge upside and have a lot more that we have to continue to do and room to grow. I think downtown in the locals' mind still has that untapped potential.
Very well said. I mean, I think the biggest challenge to that, though, is you need more people living down here in the first place.
Yeah.
Which you have those 800 units now to the west of the plaza, which I think help. Once those are occupied and you see people walking down here and living down here, it's a big change.
But to me, it goes back to your question of, hey, why do you always play on Saturday nights, right? Why don't you play on Sunday afternoons, et cetera, et cetera? We've talked about this, right? How do we, for lack of a better term, just to use an example, the Summerlin family of 4, are they going to be more comfortable coming down, having lunch on Sunday brunch, and then coming over to the stadium, right? There's this opportunity where maybe they aren't as comfortable doing that on a Saturday night.
Yeah,
but the more we get, I'll call it Summerlin and Henderson and outside of the downtown core coming into downtown, I think there's a great positive knock-on effect for that for years to come.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, the flip side to that is we did a podcast with Myron Martin of the Smith Center a few months ago. Feels like a few months ago. I don't know when it was at this point. And they've done a great job. A lot of people thought that could not work downtown.
Right.
And there you have a performing arts center bringing people to downtown different nights of the week, different times of day, and they come down here, they'll have dinner at Oscar's, they'll go to Esther's Kitchen, whatever it is, and then they'll go over to a show. And that's what I would love to see happening at the Lights eventually, where you get that.
And I think
crowd.
part of that upside, right, is Cashman Field and the Neon Museum feels a little bit disconnected from the core of Fremont Street. And I think the core of Fremont Street feels a little disconnected from the Smith Center. And the Smith Center feels a little disconnected from the Arts District. And we still, again, it's that room for growth, right? When you look where we've come in the last 10, 15, 20 years, we still have to meld all those 4 locations together, I think. All easier said than done, right? Don't take that to... it's just money type thing.
Right. Well, lots to come, and we can't wait to come back to a game, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Excellent. I hope everyone who's listening, if you haven't come to a game, I hope you come down to a game. We will sing and dance and cheer and go ole, ole, ole together. And it'll be a little slice of Mexico City, London, and Buenos Aires right here in downtown Las Vegas.
And if you say Brett's name at the door, you get him free.
You get a half price at Oscar's.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the corner of Main Street. You can learn more about the Lights on Twitter at LVLightsFC. We'll be back again soon, but in the meantime, follow us on social. On Twitter and Instagram, it's at PlazaPod, and on Facebook, find us at Plaza Podcast. Or go right to the top and tweet Jonathan at Jonathan Jossel. We'll see you next time from right here on the corner of Main Street.